Hey, you guys, it's Barbara Horowitz, and today, in honor of the Super Bowl this Sunday, Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Green Bay Packers, I am actually going to make a brand new style. I made a video in 2007 that came with my DVD for my book, Closet Control, published through Sterling Press, and you guys watched it you are still watching it. I mean, I think right now there's about 382,000 people that have watched this video from a 44-year-old chick. Well, I wasn't 40 when it started. Yeah, maybe I just was. But, okay, so we're going to make a brand new style because you guys had so much to say. Boy, did you have so much to say. And just a little bit of a background on this t-shirt line I had. I started it in 2001. It's 2011, so it's 10 years. This is kind of my 10-year anniversary of rigged t-shirt couture. I actually learned from costume designer Wendy Schechter. She was on the movie Crossroads with Britney Spears, and it was the dawn of Frankie B. Low-rise 2-inch crotches, maybe even a little larger. I had Danielle on my radio show with Gilby, and I actually gave her the very first t-shirt I ever cut in honor of low-rise, rock and roll, sexy pants. And Wendy, I had cut the top perfectly, old roommate's top, cut it off into a one-arm top, and was like, how do I close this off? I don't want to just have it sewn. That seems so silly. I don't know how to sew. So costume designer extraordinaire Wendy Schechter showed me. And whoa, did I go nuts. Made a bunch of them. She took them down to the set, and Britney Spears bought my very first t-shirt, which turned into rigged t-shirt couture. It was carried in a bunch of boutiques, Fred Segal, Madison, and I began what was at that time on the sample sales circuit. I was at all the sample sales in LA. I flew to New York, San Francisco, Chicago. I went to London with my tea party. And that's how I became the West Coast correspondent for BritishVogue.com. So I'm left-handed. And as a young child, they told my mom that because I'm left-handed, I would never be able to properly cut with a pair of scissors. Well, I am here to tell you that I've cut over 3,000 t-shirts with a right-handed scissors. All right, so never say never. And I have no idea what came to me about this. I think it's because I had this conversation with Daniela. She's a busty, girl. I'm a busty girl. And t-shirts just made me feel busty and boxy, and they didn't really give me the shape that I knew I had, that I wanted to create on my own, so I created it on my own. I don't have a clue how to sew. Not a single clue. I wouldn't even be able to see well enough to thread the needle. I wouldn't even want to take the time to read the directions, and I certainly wouldn't want to take the time to figure out how to get the sewing machine down. I'm just like you. It's basically something's happening in the morning, I'm getting dressed, and something doesn't feel right. So what I do is I basically problem solve the problem. And I have a very ADD kind of way of focusing right in to what I'm trying to create. And so you can do the same thing, and that's what I'm going to show you. You guys had so many comments, and the t-shirt that I show on my channel right now, I have to say is one of the hardest t-shirts to make, because a muscle tee was the very last tee I could make. Whenever you take off the ribbing of a t-shirt, anything from the t-shirt, you actually have fabric, and you're using your body as your own fit model, and that's what I really learned. I couldn't make a muscle tee to save my life. So when I took a one-arm top and turned it around to a halter down the center, which I'll be making those styles for you now, not today, in future videos, I mean, my life changed. So when you go back and if you go watch this video, it's really hard to make a really good muscle tee. Plus, I wanted it to be not like anything you've ever seen. So because I have this also called tea parties, where major brands like Miss 60, Nike Air Jordan, Guess, Shape Magazine, Fred Segal, Sky Vodka, movie premieres, gaming premieres, like Xbox, and they've all used me for my cut-up t-shirts. I could actually make them in front of people. I've done them for corporate events, and I've done them for birthday parties. I've done them for major art. Like I was the moving art, and this was a $500,000 piece of art that very wealthy people were attending. So there's nothing like you and a scissors. That's all you need, okay? And the second thing you need besides that scissors is to not be afraid to cut up something that you own, something you're no longer attached to. So if you just saw the video that I made yesterday, in honor of the Super Bowl, I had to finagle this lovely, charming Pittsburgh Steelers tie-dye t-shirt, okay? Because, you know, my boyfriend's got the jersey, the Chihuahua's got the jersey, his son's got the jersey. I ain't going to be buying a jersey. And I'm not going to just buy a t-shirt. I'm actually going to show my support, and I'm going to be unique, and I'm going to do me, and I want you to do you. So get ready. Watch this. I'm going to do the best I can because a lot of you had comments about the camera work prior. So let me show you what you want to do. You don't want to be attached. You don't want to worry. There's nothing you can do to ruin this t-shirt except make it too small. So I'm going to show you why I use an extra large t-shirt. If you are even, you can also, if you're a more than women's sizing, plus size, you can use double XL. You can use a shirt that's much bigger than you. That's why I use a men's shirt. But I cut them for plus size gals all the time too. So here's I feel like this is almost bigger than an XL. The reason why I like to use such a big t-shirt is it gives me more room for error, and I use everything for trim. Now remember, I started this in 2001. This was very green. It's one of the greenest things you can do is to recycle your clothing. And how many people have a stack of ugly t-shirts that they're not doing anything with, just taking up space and taking up energy? So the most you can do is actually just get out a scissors and get out some inks and have some fun. So we're going to start. I'm going to take this t-shirt and I'm going to lay it across me. So I want to lay it down, and I'm hoping you can see this. I'm going to lay it so that it's vertical, away from me, okay? So let me take it here, okay? So it's basically to its side. It's not horizontal, all right? And then what I do is I really cut off anything that has been manufactured. I'm actually just trying to get back to the material. I'm using the t-shirt as almost a way to edit and get down without actually having to buy a bolt of fabric, because I would say I'm more of an editor than I am a designer. I wouldn't even know how to take a bolt of fabric and create what I'm trying to do. So the t-shirt gives you all that frame. Now see what I just did? I basically am cutting off this trim, and it doesn't matter if I cut it evenly at all, okay? So, and this is what I learned, and when I learned this, it really did, it made my whole entire life like, oh my God. So here's the bottom of the band of the t-shirt. You're just gonna pull it, because what happens is that jersey cotton just rolls. You don't have to cut it straight. I mean, I can't cut it straight. I don't even have my glasses on making this. This is very important. You want this thick piece. This is gonna be actually something we're gonna use for detail, okay? Now, because a men's t-shirt is so long, you want to cut a couple more strips, okay? Now, what I do is I take the scissors and I actually pull the material away from what I'm cutting. I cut, I pull, 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 okay? And so I'm gonna cut several strips, because these are actually gonna be how I lace the t-shirt. People would comment and say, oh, I love the way you lace the t-shirt. I'm like, that's the only way I can lace it. Because remember, we're not using a sewing machine. We're just using a scissors and a healthy dose of non-attachment, okay? So here's my two pieces, and this was the same thing. When I first started cutting, I thought, I can't make this straight, and I'm a loser. And that's the magic. You know spaghetti? Here's your spaghetti, all right? Okay, so you basically have something that is, what we've seen now is, I mean, I can make this into a necklace. We've seen a lot of things come from this, but what I'm going to do is cut this right here with my scissors. It's gonna become my laces on the side, okay? So now I have my bottom of the band, I have my laces, and I'm ready to actually cut my form, okay? So now this is where I do take the t-shirt towards me, all right? And what I learned from when I started this, I started at the Fairfax Flea Market, and I used to just cut up straight up and down. You can't do that because, you know, we're women, we have curves. And so you have to actually curve for that, you know, portion of your body that you think is, you know, the badunk-dunk, and then your smaller waist, okay? And with our diets, there's a lot of things that are happening called muffin top. this is basically, this has to do with what we don't even know what's in our food. So watch as I take this. I'm actually going to take from the edge and I'm going to move inward. All right. Okay, so I'm cutting. I'm going to bring it down so you can see the top of the t-shirt. I'm cutting this and I've made a curve and I'm kind of judging that as a men's t-shirt, see all that? Well, I know that I'm so much smaller, so I'm pretty much cutting. I'm not cutting it entirely in half, so I still want room to do other things if I decide. All right? So from there, I've cut off this half, okay? Here's your sleeve. I use everything, okay? So don't get rid of it, all right? I'm going to turn the t-shirt around right here. See my edge right here, same thing. It's not straight at all. Boom, it's straight, okay? Because jersey rolls, so there's really no way you can make a mistake. I mean, there really, really isn't. But you do want to notice how it's got this angle and this curve because that's what you are. You're a curvy, angled person. Be proud of it, love it, and enjoy it, all right? So I don't take the t-shirt and double it over because I still want to leave margin for just in case I made it too small. Because one of my friends, Grace, will tell you, she'll tell you this story 10 years later every time I see her. Right, Grace? She'll tell you that, remember when I made my very first t-shirts, how they were just way too small. They were. Apparently, I thought I was smaller than I was. Okay, so let me just get this camera straight here because what I'm going to do is I want you to look right here. Here's my sleeve, okay? Can you see that? I'm going to make this an off-the-shoulder top. So I cut off here, one side off, but I'm not making a muscle tee like I did in the other video. I'm actually going to make like an off-the-shoulder top. So this graphic will hang a little more interestingly. So what I'm going to do is come to the top. See here? Everything is curve and angles. The best thing you can do for your figure is give yourself curve. When you see that muscle tee, you had a lot of comments on how it didn't look right on the gal that was wearing it. That girl has a really fit figure. So it fit her like bam, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm taking this here and I am cutting and still leaving like a cap sleeve tee on, okay? And I'm angling and angling and angling down, all right? And I still have this because I may use the band. I may use it for something. So now what you're seeing is I have basically my the frame of my t-shirt cut out, okay? Now I didn't cut it straight again. Boom. There you go. Okay? Super, super easy, okay? So I have to say cutting it is actually the easiest. Now I don't want this neckline. That's not interesting. And what I found is I didn't want anything that resembled a t-shirt. I wanted it, and I didn't want it to look punk. I wanted my t-shirts to look like straight up fashion, okay? So it's really important. Seams, there's still a seam on here. To get this t-shirt to behave the way I need it to, I need to be careful of this seam. So I'm gonna hold my fingers past it, and I'm going to basically be cutting out, if you can see this, I'm cutting right into just so close to the Steelers graphic. And I am cutting in a total sort of half moon. Okay? See what I took off? I took off this. I don't want this. This is somebody else's t-shirt. I'm making my own design. It's a pretty good chance I won't use this. Okay? So what you have is, and again, did I cut it straight? Doesn't matter. What I learned is this is a heavy, heavy, heavy graphic. Graphics actually, when they're heavy graphics from this old t-shirt, they actually can make the t-shirt sort of buckle. And you guys all had a field day with how much I said I learned. There's probably 300 comments alone on this other video, oversized tee video, that talks about how much I learned. But here's the thing, I didn't know how to do this. So when you see that video, that is me actually doing that one fell swoop, not being edited. Okay, so because I did really only learn this from cutting 3,000 t-shirts, that graphic's gonna buckle. That's not gonna sit pretty. So you don't need it to be totally obviously the Steelers. I mean, people are gonna see it. That's not cool. It's like all the t-shirts you were buying probably back in the day at like, Urban Outfitters that had cuts in it and everything. You could see the graphic. Like it's all sort of implied, okay? So now I'm turning here, and I actually am going to, I used to curve things, but you know, I'm a little curvier than I used to be. So what I think I'm going to do is actually curve up. I used to curve under, so now I'm curving up instead because I want to kind of create something that's going to suit me in my 44 plus body instead of my 34 plus body. So you see that shape, boom, pull, roll, okay? So here is my t-shirt that I'm going to lace, okay? It still does look a little bit big, or I might just be thinking I'm a little bit smaller. This is when you can refine your cutting, okay? So I'm going to take it in a little bit, but what I also like to do now is I'm going to create some more trim, okay? So instead of cutting this piece, these pieces all the way off, I'm going to leave them there, and you're going to see what I'm going to do with them later on, okay? So now, and again, I'm going to pull, taut, all right? Okay, and so here's the part that I have found that is the hardest part. It is the lacing. The lacing is the hardest part of the whole entire t-shirt. When I used to do this major parties, this was the easy part to cut, but the lacing takes the most time, and here's why. It's not how you lace it. It doesn't need to be spaced out evenly. Nobody's going to see it. You can cut messy, but what you don't want to do is, so you don't have to worry about measuring. I don't get out a ruler. I don't do anything. I'm measuring in my own mind. And graphics almost actually allow you to use it as a measuring. So here's Pittsburgh Steelers. I sort of know by what's left on this t-shirt that I'm going to start to make my underarm hole here. Now here's what's most important. It's not the width of the holes and how well and spaced they are. It's actually the size of the hole, okay? And the hole is the toughest part to make. So you need to make sure that your scissors has where you're cutting with the tip, okay? You're almost holding your finger behind it, making a very tiny snip, and then you push your finger through. You don't want to make a big hole because a big hole will stretch more, and what happens is it looks a little bit more sloppy, and it doesn't lace and corset as tight on your body as you want. So here I am again, going like this, just making little baby snips so that I can actually put my finger through and make my own hole so that it won't get really big. Because you can wash these and nothing will happen to them. I mean, they're pretty much indestructible. But if you do make them too big, and also don't make them too close to the edge. There's almost like this I couldn't even tell you what the measurement is because again, it's all by sight. You almost need like a little bit of your thumbnail before you're going to cut the hole. Because if you cut too close to the edge, well, it will rip and you won't be able to corset it neatly. So again, it's not the width that matters. I do sort of go like a 1/4 inch in between. It's more the size of the hole. Ooh, that sounds interesting. And so we all understand that. And basically, see, I'm just going to go down here, keep going down. I'm not going to go all the way down because I also found, instead of saying learned, I also found that if I lace all the way up on the bottom, you're going to basically squeeze the area that we don't want to squeeze. We all have it. Like I said, it's all our diets. But I still will cut the holes because the funny thing is that holes are detail. Okay? So, and see how I did that? All right, so I'm ready. Here's my holes. Okay, if you can see that. And now I'm going to cut the other side. Okay? Now, this is going to be what is this going to be? I think for right now what I'm going to make it, actually it was going to be an off the shoulder. I think I'm going to make it a 1-arm top. Okay? I have several styles I can make from this one body, but just for time's sake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up at the top because you're going to see this is going to be a 1-arm top, okay? Which has been very popular and become a mainstream style. It was just really edgy when I started to do this, 2001. So I'm making my holes, okay? And each time I make a hole, I just want to take my my finger underneath my nail and sort of pull through the hole. Like this one I didn't make Yeah, you want to make it smaller so you have the control, okay? And then I'm just going to continue down. And like I said, the holes, they take the longest time. Yeah, they are the most time consuming. Okay, so I'm just guiding my finger right behind so I use my finger, but I'm not cutting all the way through. I'm making baby little snips and sort of stretching the material, okay? So, and this is what's really important. Neither side is even. It doesn't matter. You don't need to measure either side. The only thing you might want to do is when you're making the balanced tee that I'm showing, the only thing you might want to do is, with this, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you start the holes, because this is going to be a one-arm top, but like the muscle tee I showed, it did matter. And so sometimes if you're doing a muscle tee, you want to measure across just to get that first start going. But you know, we're very different on either one of our sides, and nobody's going to notice it, okay? So there you have it. There are your holes, okay? So now we're going to go back to the lacing. All right, here's my lacing, my spaghetti. And what I'm going to do is, this also is a little time consuming too and can be frustrating as well. So I'm going to take the piece through and even the spaghetti, I call it spaghetti, even it out. So you're holding these pieces so they even out. They don't matter if they never end, even though you started it evenly, they don't always necessarily end up even at the bottom. But you do want to get that start so you can get it all the way down, okay? And then you're just simply going to crisscross, okay? Yeah, crisscross. And it doesn't matter if it's over, under, over. That's the great part about this. It doesn't matter. It's really your preference. But you do want to make sure that you do it tight so everything is really tight, so that it's very, very neat when you put it on. And when you put it on, it's pretty much like putting on a corset. It'll feel like you made it too small, but if you can get it on, just like a pair of jeans that you can get on and they're too tight but you can button them, it's the same thing with this. You're creating a corset and it's going to stretch. So, and they will stretch and stretch and stretch, and that's why you want to make them almost a little smaller than you are. Not too small like I made my very first ones thinking I was smaller, but you want to make them a little smaller because they do stretch so much and you are making them without being on a form. So you want to make that corset really tight because it's going to close together. That lacing is going to close together in a much more classy way. This is not something that I would wear as I did with Frankie B's in 2001. I would wear them for sporting events. I would wear them to the gym. I would wear them as little beach cover-ups. I mean, they're definitely, you know, that was a trend where it was that whole sort of cut-up t-shirt, big, bold graphic, and that was 10 years ago. But just like anything, you can demote it down in your wardrobe, and I will wear this on Sunday, and it was my boyfriend's t-shirt that he's had for 4 years, and thank God I'm making this because I don't ever want to see him in it again because it's almost like breakup material. I'm like, you are way cooler than this. I know it's your team, but we can't have this. So see how I'm just going down, okay? The great part is when you don't cut evenly, and even though you did stretch across, the corseting fixes it, okay? See that? All right, so then we're going to turn to the other side, and I'm going to whip through this a little more quietly because you guys also had a lot of comments on how I could talk a lot. I can talk a lot. I want to. What I want you to do is not be afraid to try this. I mean, why would I know how to do this any more than you? I didn't. I just sort of thought, you know what? I had a problem I needed to solve. You know, I was very busty and I needed to make sure that I could look and feel the way that I wanted to. Okay? So again, I'm evening out and I'm just going to head down, crisscrossing over or under or over. Okay, so for camera's sake, I'm not going to go all the way down so I can show you, but this will give you the confidence because like I said, lacing is the most difficult part. Okay, so over, under, over. Really, if you get good at this, it should take you about 6 minutes. And I want you guys to start making them and send me video responses. I want to see what you're making. I mean, I'm 44 years old, so you young girls should be able to smoke me. And I've been waiting for that because, you know, there's a lot of people that make these and they're messy looking and they're not neat and they don't look like fashion. And, you know, everything I do has to be, you know, fashion without cost. You know, style doesn't have a cost. Okay. All right. Okay. So there you have it. Okay, here's the one arm. This is a one arm top. All right. See, this is what it's going to look like on. How great that looks already, okay? So that's what I need to show you here. So see, here's my top here, okay? Now, I purposely didn't cut all the way at the top because I want this to fold over the graphic. The graphic is heavy and it will buckle if you cut too close to it, trust me. And then it's going to buckle on your chest and it's just not going to look right. You know, if you're tiny busted, big busted, it's not going to look right. So you really almost want to, here's where I have those extra pieces, okay? And I'm just going to pull them because they become detail as well. They'll hang sort of like my own, you know, my own sort of spaghetti, okay? But I can't just put this on because this is too large of a neckline now. So I have to go back to my pieces that I saved. And what I learned where I like to, yes, I learned or I found, I only found these things by doing, was that the bottom of the band of the t-shirt was actually excellent because it had so much stitching in it already. So it kind of gave the structure that I was actually trying to take out. It actually gave the structure that it needed, okay? So right here, this is what you're gonna do in your I'm left-handed, so this shirt can be worn either way. So this graphic can be in the front or it can be in the back, so it doesn't really matter which way you started on. But where your one arm is, okay, this portion here, the part that slants, you still need to make this fit you because it won't stay on. I don't have very strong shoulders, and if you do, it still won't stay on, okay? So what I do is I cut them small, even for that big piece of material, and use your finger to go, and do cut these a little closer because this is, again, your final detail, okay? And, okay, so I have 4 holes here, all right, at the top, and I'm going to take this piece, and I cut it, it's the bottom of the band of the t-shirt, I cut it in half, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to weave, it's like I'm weaving it. At this point now, I'm not corseting it. I'm not going over or under. I'm sort of just weaving it through. So it goes up and then down and up and then down and then up. Let's see. Yeah, actually I made a mistake. So here I have to pull this out because you'll miss a hole. That's what you'll notice. You'll miss a hole on the side as well. So sometimes you can miss a hole, and that's the one thing you'll just go back and fix that. So I have to come back here, okay, and then I'm going to come. The reason why you want 4 holes is because you want to end up with this right here where it's all in the front. See how it kind of gives that little gathered effect right there? Well, I'm just going to pull that in, which is kind of creating, if you can see this, it kind of creates its own sort of pleat. Because again, everything should be very fashionable, okay? It should be super duper fashion. I double knot, okay? So now what I have is, let me show you. I have a one-arm top, okay? And what I'm gonna do is show you that this piece here, okay, which is the bottom of the band of the t-shirt, is going to be too long. So if you can see this, what you want to do is you want to cut these pieces to the bottom of your t-shirt. You want everything to be, you want it to be crisp and clean and neat and tidy, but still be in balance, which is what I always say. And I don't cut straight across on these, I cut upwards. Okay? Because again, all that curve is just going to deflect around your own curves or lack of curves, okay? And then I pull these taut. And from there, then what I also do is I come back and I take my strings, which when I first started this, like having them uneven was kind of cool. But now I want this to be neat. So this is the one place where I take my t-shirt and I do double it in half, okay? Just because I want to take these strings and I don't really want them uneven. I'm going to show you more on this as well. And these I do cut straight across, but I want them to be straight. So there's not a lot of things that are straight, just like in life. But what I want you to see is how great is this top, okay? Because of camera's sake, and I don't have anything on underneath, I'm going to actually not, what I can do, I can wear it this way. You don't have to show that graphic in the front. That's so expected. On Sunday, sure, I'm going to show it in the front because it's, you know, it's a big day. But you can also show it the way I'm showing it, which is really fashion forward. So what you have to do is you have to make one, okay? And then on Sunday before the game, I'm going to show you how to style it, and I'm going to show you how it turned out. All right? So this is big stuff. I haven't made one of these in a new style in 3 years. Okay, so I'm hoping this video is going to catch another 400,000 people. You guys are amazing. All the comments that you've made have been amazing. I have so many more styles, even just with this body I can show you. So get ready for straight up fashion. Because you know what? If I can make this at my age, that means you can make it at any age. And I want to see what I haven't, where do I still need to learn? Okay, so give it to me. All right? Steelers. Yes. Come on, Green Bay girls. Show me what you got. Show me what you got. All right? See you Sunday for the unveiling review.